It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech. We have a great panel. My friend Ed Bott, I've been working with him for more than 30 years, is here from the Ed Bott Report at ZDNet. We also have Wesley Faulkner from Daily Co., one of our favorite folks from Austin, and my car guy, Sam Abuelsamid. We're going to talk about all of the quarterly revenue reports. We'll break it down one by one with Apple and Amazon and Facebook and Google. A big acquisition for AMD, what it'll all mean, and Starlink finally begins its beta test. Is this something we can look forward to? It's all coming up next on TWiT. This Week in Tech comes to you from TWiT's LastPass Studios. Securing every access point in your company does not have to be a challenge. LastPass unifies access and authentication to make securing your employees simple and secure, even when they're working remotely. Check out lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is TWiT, This Week in Tech, episode 795, recorded Sunday, November 1st, 2020. Existential Dreadlocks. This Week in Tech is brought to you by NetSuite. Get visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more with NetSuite by Oracle. Now's the time to upgrade to the world's #1 cloud business system. Let NetSuite show you how they can benefit your business with a free product tour right now at netsuite.com/twit. And by Stamps.com. This holiday season, more people will be mailing stuff than ever before, and that means the post office is going to be busy. Save time with Stamps.com for a 4-week trial, plus free postage and a digital scale without any long-term commitment. Go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and enter the code TWIT. And by Barracuda. One of Barracuda's premier customers is PetSmart. They use Barracuda and Microsoft's help to quickly secure their remote business during the pandemic. Check out Barracuda's latest recorded webinar to learn how at barracuda.com/PetSmart. It's time for TWiT This Week in Tech, the weekly get-together I look forward to all week long, where I bring in some of my favorite tech journalists, tech mavens, friends, and we talk about what's been going on this week. I figure this is the last week that we'll be able just to talk normally about the events of the week. Next week, who knows what it's going to be like. Joining us are my car guy, I call him, Sam Abuelsamid. He is principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights, and his Wheel Bearings podcast is a must-listen for anybody who loves automotive news and reviews, wheelbearings.media. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Leo. Always good to be back on this show.
Nice. Always nice to see you. He was just on the radio show. He's on the radio show every Sunday, so it's nice. We get to talk then. Also joining me to my left, the wonderful Wesley Faulkner. Last time we talked, looking for a new gig. He is now developer advocate at daily.co, which embeds video in all the things that you do. Something like that. Hi, Wesley. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. You're muted. Start the show silently. That's always the best. There we go.
Can you hear me?
It was us.
Okay.
Sorry about that. How's everything going? And you're in Austin.
Things are great.
Yeah.
Trying to make sure my voice is heard, which is good. Not a good start so far. But I love this job. Love being at Daylico. Really great technology.
Nice.
In the age where people are just trying to figure out how to get video working, even internally. So we help some companies who are now going remote first instead of returning to the office to use to make their own tools internally for communication, which is great.
Boy, it looks like many companies are going to stay remote too. We're going to get to that in just a second. But let me introduce our third panelist, Mr. Ed Bott, who I have known for 27 years, something like that.
Something like that. It's probably about right, yeah.
Yeah, since the early 90s when he used to appear on Dvorak on computers.
Do you know what? It's more than 30, actually, Leo.
What? You started
it was
in the 80s?
In the 80s.
Yikes.
Yeah.
It's so...
It was a PC, it's a PC World.
PC World, yeah. It's so strange. I mean, we've been doing TWiT for 15 years. We'll probably be doing it at least for 20 years. To even think of doing anything for that long, it doesn't really compute. I remember when I was first starting out in radio, and they said, "Oh, you have to have 3 to 5 years experience." I thought, how would anybody get that much experience doing anything? Now I say you got to have 30 years experience, or I don't want you on the show. Anyway, great to see you, Ed, from New Mexico.
New Mexico, we've got, this is like 3 times in a row you've gotten that right. I think we finally nailed that one. And
is it Albuquerque or Taos, or where are you again?
Right in between Albuquerque and Taos, in a little town called Santa Fe.
Oh, I've heard of that.
yeah. Kind of artsy place. And by the way, so the last time I was on was back in September.
Yep.
And there was a rumor that ZDNet was about to be acquired.
I remember, and I asked you, and you
asked me, and I
ignorance.
Said, I don't know anything more than you do. And it was the rumor became official the next day. Well, the sale became official Friday, 2 days ago.
And so that's why you're wearing your red shirt, because
red shirt, Red Ventures. So yeah.
So
now I'm by Red.
So
Ventures.
It's now official. I didn't realize it hadn't closed yet. So it just closed.
It just closed.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is actually fairly. That's fairly quickly. That's about a 6-week close.
Yeah.
I think. So yeah.
I doubt they're going to change much. They got CNet too, right? They got all of the former CBS Interactive properties.
Correct. Yeah. So it's all of those, and the at least for now, there's not going to be any change for any changes in anything. And I would, aside from the legal disclaimers and stuff that goes on there, but I think they bought the division because the sites are doing well.
Yeah.
And so the management teams are all intact. The only thing that's really changed is that, I sent a manuscript off to one of my editors yesterday, and I got a email back, an automated email back that said, please update your email address to so-and-so at redventures.com. And
wow.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
it's funny because you and I go back to the days when computer magazines were totally dominant. And there were 2 big companies. You worked for IDG. I worked for Ziff Davis.
And then I worked for Ziff Davis.
Right.
So I worked for both of them.
Yeah. And obviously magazines have kind of gone by the wayside, but Red Ventures looks a lot like the old Ziff Davis in a way, except that they're all websites instead of print magazines.
Right.
They're assembling a portfolio in a variety of different verticals. That's really interesting. They've got the points guy for travel and Bankrate and reviews.com, and as well as CNet. So I think that's a really interesting, it's kind of analogous to something that we're a little bit more used to, the old days of magazine publishing.
And it is sort of fascinating the way that they did when you look at the integration there, you look at those rectangles that were just up on the screen, and the absence of overlap was almost startling.
Yeah.
It's a really good fit from the standpoint of, everything there's a lot of B2C type stuff there. But just, normally you get an acquisition like this, and there's a couple of properties where you look at and you go, okay, these guys are going to have to duke it out and see who survives.
Right.
And in this case, there's just none of that, which is fairly comforting for someone like me who, gets a paycheck.
Yeah,
I
because
like that.
our friends at iMore were bought by the Future folks, and they have a lot of tech verticals, and so there's always that,
Yeah, a little pit, that little feeling in the pit of your stomach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Does Red Ventures seem like a company that's in this for the long haul? Because we've seen some other digital media companies get bought by at least companies that are. I don't know how much these guys are venture backed.
They've been around. They've been around
like
for 20
Gizmodo.
Years. They've been around for 20 years, and as far as I know, they're profitable and self-funding, no venture backing. So it's all that ticks all of the right boxes for me.
It's
okay. That's good to hear.
This is a kind of a constant theme in all our shows and has been for the last 15 years, which is the disintermediation, the recreation of every area of life thanks to technology. And so you're seeing this with, magazines initially replaced by the internet and now kind of a reformation of the old publishing houses, except that it's blogs. Same thing's happening in my field in podcasting, very much so, with a couple of big incumbents now just grabbing everybody. There's fewer independent podcasts between the PBS mafia with WNYC and public radio, and then Spotify, which has been very aggressive, people like Joe Rogan acquiring podcasts, and then iHeart, which is, of course, a big radio, the number one radio broadcaster in the United States, now is becoming completely dominant in podcasts. So I guess the more things change, the more they remain the same. It's just we're juggling it around. In fact, maybe that leads to one of our first stories, because somebody called me on the radio show about T-Mobile's new video service. They're getting into the cable industry, in effect, and with kind of similar to Sling TV and YouTube TV. It's what is it called? T-Lite? I can't even remember.
TVision, I think.
TVision, that's it. Yeah. And it's a kind of a lightweight cable bundle, although if you add enough channels, it can get up to $60 a month. It can be very much like a cable operator.
Yeah, but it seems like all of these new ones, start off lightweight, and then, within a year or two,
get as expensive as cable.
They get bulked up, like YouTube TV. They're up to $65 a month now.
It's interesting because they bought Layer 3, and this is actually technology they got when they bought Layer 3. I think Layer 3 thought this was going to be like streaming concerts and things like that, but they've repurposed it to stream television, and the plans start as little as $10 a month if you're a T-Mobile customer. But it's not just for T-Mobile customers. It's really, there is a jockeying now to become the next cable power. We don't need cable anymore. Everything's over the top. And there are two big gaps, though, in what T-Mobile's doing. One, they don't have CBS at all. That's kind of a problem. They don't have HBO either, and they're not on Roku, which has been a problem for a lot of these guys. Remember, HBO Max wasn't, Peacock wasn't when they first launched. You got to make the deals. So it's actually just as complicated a universe. It really, the only thing that's changed at all is instead of coming in as television over the cable, they're coming in as internet over the cable. I don't know exactly how different.
I wanted to add a little asterisk there. Like, I am one of those legacy Sprint customers, and it's for T-Mobile proper customers that get in first, and Sprint customers won't be able to use this or sign up until later. Yeah. So we're still treated like we're a part of another company, which I think is very unfortunate. It doesn't feel like the acquisition went all the way through in terms of treating us the same.
Yeah.
Also a legacy Sprint customer here, and I can attest to that. In fact, now when you go to sign into your online account management for the thing, you go there and it takes you to T-Mobile, and then you type in your email address, and it goes, you're one of those people. So then they send you over somewhere else that isn't quite as magenta.
I will add myself to the pile on because I bought a new iPhone for my mom. She still had the 6. I thought, it's time for a new one. And she's on Sprint. And so I had to call Sprint, except T-Mobile answered. And then he said, hold on. I waited for half an hour to get, hold on for another half an hour. I have to say the T-Mobile music is on hold is much more rockin' than the Sprint music on hold. Just, little review. And also, by the time I got online with somebody from Sprint, it was clear they were not only not in this country, I think they were not in this universe because there was about a 3-second lag. You say something, 3 seconds later, you hear what you said coming through the guy's headphones. So you just learn, I'm going to wait. Because we had a lot of collisions up front. Maybe you could fix that, Wesley. Can you get Daily.co on that? Because that's a mess. It's ugly.
They can call us. I'll hook them up.
Yeah.
But it sounds like do you think that they are just shuffling off Sprint and then hoping through some sort of attrition through these deals that they'll incentivize people to switch plans or
no? In fact,
somehow
they say
migrate over?
They say you guys will get access later this month. It's not like they're going to keep you out in the cold forever.
But
I think
in terms of the support you said, it doesn't
think
sound
about
like
it.
they are fully funding that.
No, they've got to integrate. This is, by the way, why Comcast was so bad for years. They kept acquiring cable systems, all of which had different computer systems, different, completely different systems, and they somehow had to cobble this into some giant ball of string that worked, and it didn't work for years and years and years. And I suspect it'll be like that with T-Mobile and Sprint. It'll just be a mess until it's not.
Well, it sucks that it's a telecom company, right? Like
well, why would you think it'd be any different?
They're bad at communicating with each other.
They're the worst. Are you kidding? They're the worst monopoly in America. Is the telecoms shortly, just by inches, followed by the cable companies, which are becoming telecoms. Cable TV execs, according to Tech Dirt, move past denial stage. Now fully expect a cord-cutting bloodbath. This is the disintermediation we were talking about, and never ends well for the cable companies.
Yeah, I mean, we cut our cable like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
and a couple of years ago, we actually did the trial of YouTube TV, and quickly within a couple of days, we realized,
it's a cable company.
Don't miss all the ads and stuff.
It's a cable company. It's just a different delivery method.
Why would I want to pay for this again? Yeah. There wasn't really anything we wanted to watch that we didn't have on the streaming services that we had, and we had to watch ads. So we canceled the trial, and we've been, we have a bunch of different streaming services, some of which we cancel and restart at various times depending on what's on them. Stars, the show we were watching on Stars, like American Gods, finishes. Okay, we cancel that. When something else comes up, we resume it. So that's the
clearly that's not an improvement, though, Sam. That's just as bad, right?
No, because I don't have to call up the cable company.
Oh, that's true. It's
if
easier.
I want to cancel one of these services, I go into Google Play, hit cancel, boom, I'm done.
That's a good point.
And I don't have any retention officer, trying to keep me on. I just hit cancel, and when I want to restart, hit subscribe, and I'm done.
Yeah.
It takes me 3 seconds.
What they should have done instead of like. Do you remember Aereo or Arrow?
Aereo.
Dime
which the courts put out of business. Yeah.
They made that whole business basically illegal to try to spin up and do it again. If the major cable companies bought them instead and like transitioned themselves into this new cord cutting new wave, then they really could have it wouldn't be a bloodbath. It would be a slow transition where people would just move over, and it would be the new way of getting your TV. And everybody would be on it, and they would just be so dominant, and just add on these other Hulu, Netflix services to that. And they could have been the Roku of IPTV, but instead
who shut down Aereo is the broadcasters.
Yeah.
Because they were
rebroadcasting. Yeah.
They were grimly holding on to their model. And in fact, the reason it's now $65 for YouTube TV is because they have said, okay, you can rebroadcast us, but it's going to cost you. Meanwhile, as you point out, Sam, not cutting 1 minute of advertising from their hour, so they're kind of double dipping. Somebody must explain to me, and I don't claim to understand how this works at all. Lowcast. So do you know about Lowcast? Lowcast.org. If you're in one of the markets, and I am in San Francisco, I don't know Detroit is, so you probably count Sam. There's nothing in New Mexico. I'm sorry, and there's nothing in Austin. Although you might be in the Dallas greater metropolitan region. I'm not sure, but this is free. They pop up please give us money all the time, but they haven't been shut down. And the weird thing is they seem to be partially owned by broadcasters. So I can't quite figure this out. They're on every hardware platform, Apple TV and Roku and Android TV, and it's a very odd business model that it feels like Aereo. It's got all the local TV stations.
If I recall correctly, when this launched, it it is kind of like Aereo, but I think that it was actually set up as like a nonprofit,
right?
Which gave them some sort of
It is
exemption.
exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's .org.
Yeah.
But see, Sam, you could put Lowcast on your Apple TV or your Roku, and you'd get your live locals at no cost if you could put up with the donation requests.
You know how else I can get those live locals?
Oh, an
From the
antenna?
antenna on the roof.
Yeah, see, I'm in an area where an antenna does no good. I can get channel 50, which I really don't want. I don't want channel 50. That is not the best channel.
I remember Channel 50. The days when I lived
Can you
there.
use a VPN with this?
With Lowcast? Oh. Yeah, I bet you can.
Yeah, pop in through
Sure.
ExpressVPN to
I bet you can.
some location that has it.
Yeah. Come to think of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Doing this tonight. Thanks, Leo.
Oh, you're
Got me
welcome. Don't tell anybody in the court system. Actually, they've got bigger fish to fry right now. They're worried about an election, so you're probably safe. According to Carl Bodie on Tech Dirt, since 2012, 25 million U.S. households have done what you did, Sam. They've cut the cable. Cable industry expects, they randomly picked another number. Yeah, there'll be about another 25 million. We expect we'll be cut in half. They used to have 100 million subscribers. They'll have 50 million traditional cable TV subscribers. At least 3 major media companies now expect to pay TV subscriptions to stabilize around 50 million. According to people familiar with the matter who declined to speak on record because their company plans are private, the projected decline in subscribers will mean a drop of about $25 billion in cable subscription revenue, plus advertising losses for the largest U.S. media companies, including Disney, Comcast, NBC Universal, Warner Media, Viacom, CBS, Fox, Discovery, Sinclair, and AMC networks.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why companies like Disney have been pivoting. Like Disney did a big reorg in the last month or so. And now basically
they just said all streaming,
all their content together.
It's all streaming
in their streaming group.
Yeah.
Both their movies and TV stuff, putting everything in the streaming group.
Big change for Disney, right? But it's kind of recognized, seeing the writing on the wall. Here's the original CNBC story. Media executives are finally accepting the decline of cable TV. Finally. And then you look at people like Netflix in particular, but Amazon Prime also, who are really doing a good job, obviously, of making money, of making content, of surviving in an over-the-top world. Disney Plus,
Netflix is raising their price, and you're thinking, whoa. But if you look at the cable bills, they have not competed whatsoever, and they stayed high, and market pressures has not pushed that down. So I think they deserve to die.
It's a smart time for Netflix to raise their price, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're going to go up. The top plan will be $18. I think it's a couple of bucks across the board. But yeah, $18 a month for what you get on Netflix, I think that's worth it. As long as they keep getting new content. All right, let's...
well, that's the challenge, though. I mean, they're spending something like $18 billion a year on content.
Right.
And they're racking up huge amounts of debt.
Are they losing?
They can get that Quibi content really cheap right now.
Oh boy, that was oh boy, that's a low blow. Jeffrey Katzenberg, if you ever think about getting into podcasting, I got a place you could come to.
Well, the good thing about Quibi, is the model they had is that the creators owned the content. Quibi got, I think it was a 2-year exclusive license to it. And then after that, it reverts back to the owner, to the creators.
Yeah, except Netflix, where if you are depending on a check from Quibi to keep production going, there's a I can't remember the name of it, but there's a production company in Europe that is like freaked out because the money stopped and they haven't finished their film, and they want to finish it because you're right, they'll have the rights to something that they can sell, but they've got no money to do it.
But at least they have the option to go and find somebody else to buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see if I can find the name of that company. Yeah, if they could finish it, that's the problem. They were depending on Quibi money to finish the production.
I think that was Golden Arm Productions.
Yes, yes. Did you enjoy that show? This is the one where the star of Mrs. Maisel, Rachel Bresnahan, had a. Now we were trying to decide this earlier this week. Maybe you know because you watched it, right, Wesley?
Oh no!
Was it her actual arm? Or was it her actual arm?
Her arm was amputated.
It was a
and she had
prosthetic.
prosthetic.
Okay. Yeah. But then she
was it a solid gold prosthetic or gold plated? Because I would imagine that a solid gold
and
would be
it was the heavy metals were leaching into her bloodstream.
She was getting I believe it was called something like gold pulmonary disease. Okay, here's a quote. Maybe I'll just play it. Can I play it, or will I get sued by Jeffrey Katzenberg?
They have no money to sue you.
Yeah, right. He's done. All right. Let me. Here's a little clip. By the way, this is part of the problem with Quibi. You're seeing right here is I can't show you a clip. I have to show you a video taken of a phone because there's no way to share clips from this silly thing. Here is Rachel Bresnahan with the golden arm. Oh, she's coughing because you know why.
She's got COVID.
Of course, winter came.
Gold COVID.
Heather got sick.
The tests have come in. It is pulmonary gold disease.
Pulmonary gold disease. By the way, it's not just the pulmonary. Look at her skin. Oh, my God. She's got pulmonary gold acne.
As long as your body
Wait a minute. You're not hearing this, are you, John? You are. It just sounds that bad. Once again, Quibi, maybe you should have made it easier to share clips. I'm just saying.
The gold through your skin. There's very little I can do. You've got to take off that prosthetic.
No. I can't take off my golden arm. Ever.
Sir?
Whatever she wants.
She's dying because she won't take off her golden arm, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know how, with great works like that, you couldn't succeed, Quibi. I just don't understand.
Yeah, you think they have the Midas touch.
Whoa! We all know how that ended, didn't we? There was a series called Let's Go at Suco being produced by the National Lampoon. Never got made because Quibi folded. There was a non-scripted Japanese game show. Oh, that was it. The non-scripted Japanese game show. Yeah. My favorite was the one where they took a meal, they mashed it up and fired it through cannons at chefs who were then supposed to recreate the meal from the shrapnel of the meal that they got hit with. It was called Dismantled, and I just enjoyed the hell out of that show.
That's rich for like laundry sponsors. They could have. That's right. Had Clorox.
In the very first episode, a chef actually bends down to taste the food on her shoe, and that was pretty much the highlight of that episode. Anyway, that's why we're paying $18 a month for Netflix, ladies and gentlemen, and not for Quibi. All right, I want to take a break. When we come back, well, let's talk about the companies that are making big bucks. Apple, Google, Facebook, Twitter, and Amazon, all of which issued quarterly results this week. And guess what? There's money in them thar technology plays. Lots of money, all of them showing a huge growth. I guess that's not really much of a surprise. Our show today brought to you by NetSuite from Oracle. This is something every business needs. You know, if you have 8 different applications, you're trying to cobble together a solution that gives you control over your financials and your HR and your inventory and your e-commerce. NetSuite gives you visibility over all of it, everything you need in one place instantaneously. This is what you need if you're trying to run a business You don't need to try to figure it all out with a lot of different programs. You might not know this, but using QuickBooks and spreadsheets, that's just slowing you down. If you are tired of working on multiple platforms and you want to take your business to the next level, you need the consolidated information you can get from NetSuite. It's tough to run a small or medium-sized business. You need a solution that can keep up. NetSuite is the #1 cloud business system in the world. NetSuite gives you cloud-based solutions, streamlines mission-critical business processes, reduces IT costs, and allows you to easily scale and future-proof your business with an agile business platform that evolves as your needs change. Save time and money. You can close with confidence, accelerate your financial close, maintain compliance with accounting standards. You can report with accuracy. Obviously, financial accuracy is everything. You can even drill down into underlying details so you can understand what's impacting your business. And I love this, get real-time information. Improve your business's performance with real-time metrics and role-based dashboards so you know exactly what's going on. Exactly what's going on with your business. That's why Commvault uses NetSuite. They were the perfect switch for Commvault. They turned to their cloud solution as a platform that could dramatically reduce complexity and provide much-needed agility. The Suite Cloud development platform let Commvault support unique processes and to integrate with their third-party cloud applications. And, of course, then you get the great apps from NetSuite partners to round out the company's updated environment. SolarWinds uses NetSuite. We needed more than just a good accounting solution. We had to responsibly manage growth, and NetSuite provided the business application infrastructure to do exactly that. Stop paying for multiple systems. Stop paying the cognitive overload multiple systems give you. Get NetSuite. NetSuite delivers what others can't. Join over 22,000 companies right now using NetSuite. Let NetSuite show you how they'll benefit your business with a free product tour at netsuite.com/twit. Just go there, schedule a free product tour, and you'll be amazed. No wonder it's the world's #1 cloud ERP. netsuite.com/twit. netsuite.com/twit. We thank them so much for supporting This Week in Tech. We thank you for supporting them by going to that special address. That way they know you saw it here, netsuite.com/twit. I don't, honestly, financial results, we're going to skim through these. I don't think it's much use unless you're investing in the stock market. And even then, nowadays, because they're using non-standard accounting practices, it's kind of hard to know anything about what's going on. Apple had a great quarter, a record quarter, interestingly, for both services and Macintosh. Apple's really doubling down on this services thing. Although, when you find out, you know where I'm going, don't you, Ed? When you find out that a significant portion of that comes from Google, something like $7 to $12 billion a year, $1 billion a month. It's not quite the money you thought it was. I guess it's money, but it's not services sold to end users. It's sold to Google so that your iPhone continues to use Google search as its default. Mac revenue up, again, record quarter. That's funny because it's almost a surprise. I thought Apple might have Osborned their Macs by announcing that they were abandoning the Intel platform and future Macs would all be running their own silicon. But apparently, I think what happened is a lot. Either it was work from home, or because PC industry has also done very well, or it was people freaked out saying, I got to get the last Intel Macs. Huge growth in Mac sales, 29% revenue change.
Well, there was also a little bit of pent-up demand there, I think, too, because there was a fairly significant period in the second calendar quarter, where manufacturing was slowed or stopped, and so there was this delay in the pipeline.
Oh, that's interesting. Sure.
And a lot of that picked back up. So there, various companies, depending on where their manufacturing's done, how it's accounted for, and what their sales channel is like, had those dips and then blips.
Yeah, and we'll get to Microsoft in a second, but the PC industry, that's exactly what happened in the PC industry, right? And sales are very strong. Record sales for PCs. Intel, though, not doing all that well.
Apple also got decent keyboards. I think a lot of people were
maybe it was just
holding to upgrade
new MacBook Airs.
until the key. Yeah,
I hope that if that's the case, I hope Apple sits up and takes notice and says, "Wow, a bad keyboard can really ruin your day." You know, maybe we should always put these better keyboards in. There is a rumor they're going back to the butterfly in their next Apple Silicon Macs.
No way.
That can't be true.
Well,
that's the slow adoption. So they have a smaller base of people on the new Silicon.
Fanless.
Yeah, if it's a MacBook.
Then I wouldn't be surprised if they do bring back the butterfly for that.
Please
But
don't.
for the mainstream ones, I can't see them going back. I hope not.
The iPhone does not show up in the Apple results. It was announced towards the end of the month, and the sales didn't begin until I think the last week of the month. So it'll be next quarter that you should see that traditional jump where you get the iPhone.
Also, a highlight of how much they're depressed in China. If you see that on the charts too, they're really starting to get hit with this anti-American sentiment.
Yeah. Actually, that's another story we can. Little sidebar here, but TikTok will live to see another day. This is one of the things, not only the Chinese government, Chinese people were very upset about the WeChat TikTok banning. That was supposed to happen November 12th. A court has ruled this week that that wouldn't be fair to TikTok influencers who would be hurt economically by the ban. So the judge Beetlestone, best name in judiciary, Judge Beetlestone said, "No, you can't cut off TikTok November 12th." So or WeChat. So they're going to continue until.
Well, don't use the judge's last name a third time.
I know.
The other thing is, with regard to WeChat, that's probably part of the reason why Apple's been declining somewhat in China. And Ben Thompson has talked about this a lot over the years, where the Apple's lock-in that they have here with iMessage doesn't really apply in China. In China, everybody uses WeChat, for everything. Messaging and payments and
for everything, for dry cleaning, for railroad tickets, for everything.
So the platform doesn't matter, and there's less incentive to go with a much more expensive iPhone.
Yeah.
When you have a choice of all kinds of different Android phones that you can run WeChat on, and it's the exact same experience.
And to your point, Wesley, there is a certain amount of patriotism. Huawei's had the best quarter ever, and has become incredibly profitable because people in China are turning their backs on iPhones and picking up Huawei phones, which are actually pretty darn good phones. We can't get them here because they're spying on you or something. Alphabet / Google had a nice quarter. They were up more than 50% profit year over year, $11 billion for the quarter ending September 30th. Not bad. When you look at and this financial statement doesn't really show you that, but when you look at Alphabet's results, what you also want to look at is how's search doing, and search is growing, but not nearly at that rate. YouTube is growing a little closer to 50%, but it's still only $5 billion in revenue in the quarter. That's the real question: is how is search doing? Because everything else takes a big backseat to the search revenue.
Well, and that's always the fundamental question when you look at Google's business, especially when you consider that, the antitrust action that was just filed against them by the DOJ and 11 state attorneys general. They have been trying for pretty much as long as I can remember to develop some kind of business that can be a counterweight to search and a counterweight to search advertising. And it just never seems to happen. They've managed to get their revenue from non-search related sources from, it used to be like 7 or 8%, and I think it might now be 12 or 13% or so, but it's just it's just it just isn't there for them. And they, to their credit, they're going to start breaking out Google Cloud as they're going to start actually reporting some detailed numbers for those. Maybe put some pressure on Microsoft to do the same thing. But that to me is the thing that I look for in every Google earnings report is, have they managed to show any signs that any of those other businesses are going to turn into something that could pick up the slack if the antitrust case turns out to be very bad for them.
Yeah, and so you think that one of the results of the antitrust case could be some diminution of their search? Well, yeah, that's all the things that are in the complaint. Yeah.
involve striking at the heart of their search business, of their search agreements, and the linkage between the advertising and the search. So yeah, I mean that's existential dread.
Yeah.
For them.
That seems to be the phrase of the hour.
Well, to your point, Ed, just looking at these numbers here, it looks like Google Cloud and other are now representing about 20% of Google's revenue. So
still a fraction. And if you just take cloud, at $3.4 billion out of a total of $46 billion, it's not it's not yet to the size.
Search was $26 billion and YouTube ads was $5 billion.
Right. Yeah. That's some good revenue. That's some money. So Microsoft does not break out their earnings from Azure, from their cloud offerings.
No, they do a weird thing. Mary Jo could expound on this at some length,
and she will. I promise.
And she will. But what they do is they declare the annualized run rate for various parts of the Azure business, and then they mix it in with a bunch of other cloud services, making so that you're basically looking at a big stew. And it's a very big stew, but it has some things in it that are like, Microsoft Dynamics, which is a huge business, and that's just mixed in there. So you can never quite tell exactly where the revenue is coming from all of their different cloud product offerings.
This was a big complaint of Paul's, which is, how do they get away with this? And all the companies now are doing it. They're basically hiding the most important information if you want to understand their business and whether to invest in it, which is, in my limited understanding, the whole point of these financials, these quarterly financials.
So here's the counter argument to that is that, especially when you have a growing business and there are cycles, there's product launches, there's business cycles and everything that go in there. One thing that you don't want to do is to create a perception that that something went down and, oh my God, it's the end of the world, right, and the market is going to react to it like that. So there's a natural tendency on the part of accountants. I'm the son of an accountant, so I learned this early on. Smooth everything out, and if when you smooth everything out, you get to tell a nice, consistent story of growth. Whereas if you focus on the individual things, you see spikes going up and spikes and dips going down, and then you have to do the narrative that goes with that to explain why it's not a big deal that it went up and why it's not a big deal that it went down. And those always sound like spin rather than reality.
Yeah, it's why Apple, instead of reporting iPhone sales, now reports revenue per customer. That is, and I think you could make a pretty strong case that that's a more useful metric for everybody involved, how much per customer you're making, because you're not going to see the same iPhone growth nowadays that you would have seen 10 years ago. So I guess I understand that.
The other thing they try to do is reveal as little detail as possible, so that you're not giving information to your competitors as well. You know, you don't want them knowing how many units of Apple Watch you've sold, or, you know, how many iPhone minis versus Pro Maxes, you know, have been sold, because you don't want to give any clues away to your competition.
I should, by the way, you're an analyst, so I should really defer to you on this.
But I'm not an accountant. I'm a technology.
Oh, okay, good. But it really is the case that this is not for journalists. This is for analysts. Journalists are trying to understand it. We're doing the best we can. But this is for financial analysts. In fact, Microsoft doesn't even allow journalists on the earnings calls. Mary Jo keeps saying, I'm going to sneak in as an analyst because you can't ask them questions.
So one of the most interesting things when you look at the quarterly reports, the 10Qs, and then the annual reports, the 10Ks, one of the things, you know, I'll always skim through the results because, you know, the numbers matter and everything, and that's what everyone's going to be writing about tonight and tomorrow. But the thing that I always zero in on is the section called risk factors. And when you look at the risk factors section, then the thing that you do is you compare the wording in the risk factors section for this quarter to last quarter and the quarter before that. And boy, oh boy, you can find some really good stories when you see that all of a sudden something showed up as a risk factor that had to be disclosed. This is the kind of stuff that they're putting that in there because they see this as possibly something that's going to happen, you know, 6 months from now or 2 or 3 years from now. But when the bad news happens, they're basically inoculating themselves against shareholder lawsuits by disclosing it in the risk factors. So that's from a pure lay person's or a journalist as opposed to analyst point of view. That's the place to go and read first, because you get all the juicy dirt in that one.
Of course,
I want to circle back. Before we I don't miss this point. You talked about, Ed, about you want Google to break out their cloud business on their fact sheet, but they may never do that because wasn't it last year they said that they're going to give it a couple more years, and if it doesn't work out, they might divest and like move on and sell
that's
it.
That's the Google way.
And so there's a possibility that
years, maybe
that's
a couple
the reason
of
why
months.
they're not breaking it out,
Right.
is because they might get rid of it,
Right.
and they don't want it to show up in the books.
There's a certain discipline that Google's CFO Ruth Porat has imposed over the last few years that wasn't there maybe in the early days of Larry and Sergey, where she's pretty quick. If something is not going to turn a profit, she's pretty quick to say, "Okay, boys, it's bye-bye." And there has been a little bit of a detriment to Google because I think there's also the impression that Google just doesn't stick with anything. You know,
right? And well, that same thing, you know, what Porat's been doing with the various other bets, I think is actually behind something that happened with Waymo earlier this year. For the first time back in February of this year, Waymo took outside investment from outside of Alphabet. Up until now, it's the self-driving project at Google has always been internally funded by Alphabet and Google. And this year they took $3 billion in outside investment for the first time. And, you know, it wasn't talked about very much, you know, other than saying, oh, yeah, everybody's got all this, you know, everybody's all excited about, you know, Google raising this extra money. But, you know, why are they suddenly taking money from other investors? Right. And I think it's because Porat looked at, you know, the prospects for automated vehicles becoming a real business and decided that, you know, it's probably going to happen, but it's going to take a lot longer than everybody was thinking 2, 3, 4 years ago. And she probably told Waymo, look, if you want to keep this going, you're going to have to find some funding elsewhere. And, you know, that's why they went to Silver Lake and Magna and a few other investors and, you know, raised this extra money to give them extra runway until they can actually scale a business out of that in 3, 4, 5 years' time. You know, and, you know, so, you know, Porat probably told him, you know, you can keep it going. We're not going to shut you down, but you're going to have to find funding somewhere else.
Well, and it's not just more money. It's also reducing their exposure. If the bet fails and they only own 2/3 of it, that's better than if they own 100% of it. So, and that's, by the way, what Google calls them is other bets. And historically, Google's done nothing but lose money on other bets. They make enough money in search and advertising that they can fund all this stuff, but they've yet to find the magic bullet that's going to give them a new business. They really haven't. Even Android, I don't think, is a huge benefit to them.
Only to the extent that it props up the search business,
search and advertising.
Search and advertising on 60 or 70% of mobile traffic worldwide. My question on for Sam on taking the external investment in something like Waymo is that it also lessens the likelihood that if they have a home run, if this becomes the business, one of the businesses that can help sustain them when, if search and advertising gets into trouble, but all of a sudden you've allowed a whole bunch of outside investing in there, you're now sharing the profits with other people, and a lot of that ameliorating effect that you're hoping for doesn't accrue to you, right?
Yeah, I mean, you reduce the risk, but you also reduce the upside, know, when you bring in other partners. And I mean, that's true of any startup business. The more investors you bring in, the founders are ultimately going to get less of the windfall if there is one.
All right. So would you say, Ed, having looked at the risks and the rewards of the Microsoft balance sheet, it was a pretty good quarter, right?
It absolutely was. And the thing to me that's amazing is they have, in terms of risk, they have managed to keep their head down while every one of their competitors is just taking fire left and right. And they're, I didn't see Satya in any of those hearings this past week. So, this is a company that they are really humming along with a boring but profitable business.
Yeah, income up 30% year over year, $13.9 billion for the quarter. Not bad, not shabby. Although on a par with every other of these companies that we're talking about, all the other big tech giants, behemoths. Little sidebar here. These investigations by, there was the House Antitrust Subcommittee that issued a very long, scathing report. That did include, did it not, Microsoft? Maybe not. Maybe they feel like Microsoft's been spanked already, so they don't need to be spanked again. The Department of Justice's investigation into Google, a number of investigations in the EU. But the U.S. investigations, especially this past week's testimony, really about Section 230 seemed tainted by politics to some degree. And I have to wonder if there really is any real risk to these companies, any more than the president's executive order against TikTok has harmed TikTok in any way. If anything, it's probably just increased the number of downloads. The politics seem to hinder the ability to kind of agree on what to do. You agree, Ed?
Oh God, absolutely. The whole the Section 230 hearings that weren't.
They were just grandstanding. They were political grandstanding.
It was political grandstanding. It was and the real thing is when you look at a hearing that is legitimate is going to have legislation that comes out of it. Right. I fail to see how any legislation could come out of this that would get passed and signed.
There's no consensus.
There's no consensus
about what to do
on anything.
No.
And all of the possibilities, no matter which direction you go, make things worse, not better for everyone. I mean, it's just it is the classic lose-lose proposition. So this was just an opportunity for primarily, this was in the Senate, so it's run by the Republicans, right. And it was an opportunity for Republican senators to yell at social media companies and create sound clips,
right, for their
sound
ads,
bites that they can use to run in ads right. or to share with their constituents.
I'm tough on Twitter, let me tell you.
It also diminishes the power that it would be in the past. Like, I got called in front of Congress. I don't want that to happen. But when it happens every other week, you could. There was a note about how calm all of the CEOs were, like when they were being questioned, even though they're being screamed and yelled at. It's because they're like,
so what?
I know this isn't going to do anything.
Right.
No one cares, and nothing's going to come of it. So it's unfortunate that the power of Congress or the power of the Senate is having a diminished effect because of this theater and an era where facts don't hold the same weight. So it's even both sides, the Republican and the Democratic side, they're talking as if they didn't really understand what the law was governing these companies or how their place in it could affect the future of the internet. They were just like, why'd you do this? And why'd you do that? And why don't you do this? And it just felt like a scolding and not really moving it forward.
Especially on the eve of an election, because they're going to be a lame duck Congress in 3 days anyway. And highly unlikely, as you say, that anything will happen. I don't want to, on the other hand, diminish any threats to Section 230 because those are existential dread threats to my business, to everybody who produces content online, especially if you allow comments or a chat room as we have or a forum. All of that is protected by Section 230, and any threat to Section 230 is a threat to them. But so I don't want to kind of say, oh, don't worry about it. But you know what? It really felt like, don't worry about it. They got bigger fish to fry. Maybe next year. Then we can...
There's something that Wesley said that struck me. He said, how calm they all were.
Right.
I remember a year or two ago.
Jack didn't even bother trimming his beard.
I saw so a year or two ago, I saw a tweet from Jack Dorsey where he said, my resting heart rate, 41.
Yeah.
41. And I thought, wow, that's like, that is chill. That dude is chill. But I also thought that it would be a really interesting thing to, the next time they do these hearings, to require all of these CEOs to have heart rate monitors hooked up to them with real-time, heart rate things, so you can just watch the spikes as you go up there. And Jack, I think would just be. It would just be, flat, but Zuck, I would want to see Zuckerberg's, EKG, his heart rate monitor, because I think he's really calculating the entire time. How can I use these things to lock in an advantage for Facebook and keep us? Keep any competition from ever getting near us.
Yeah.
Saying that he wants regulation is a really smart play.
Right.
It's like when my kids fight, they're like, hey, I want to do this. And my other kid says, hey, I want to do this. I said, you two figure it out, then talk to me. And then I know that delays that for like hours because they will not come to a consensus.
Very
so he's like,
strategic of
you guys,
Wesley.
like, go ahead and regulate.
I wish I had thought of
regulate us. And then now both sides are fighting, and now the focus is off them,
right?
Off the companies. It's on now the Congress. Congress needs to figure it out. And at the same time, on the side, he has all these lobbyists that are able to like whisper in the ears of what their interest is and try to shape that whole conversation. So it's a brilliant play by Mark by saying, yes, please regulate us.
And to what you were saying, Wesley, earlier about the Senate squandering its authority, a perfect example of that was Marsha Blackburn asking Sundar Pichai if some Google engineer who had criticized her was still employed at the company. Like, what, you expect Google to fire an engineer just because he said something unpleasant about you? Come on, it's ridiculous. A senator.
Yeah, talk about First Amendment. That's actually a violation of First Amendment, right? To have the government control your speech.
Right. Twitter had a pretty good quarter, but that didn't mean that the stock market wasn't skittish. Twitter shares declined 11%, even though they reported record Q3 revenue, profit that easily surpassed analysts' expectations. Where they didn't deliver is in the number of active daily users. That only rose 29% year over year compared to 34% the year earlier. I think everybody's worried after the election, people are just going to leave Twitter en masse. I don't know. You never know why the market buys or sells.
Would that be such a terrible thing?
No.
I'm really bullish on Twitter. Like,
I
will say that. Well, for two reasons. One, with their crackdown on bots, they have a modest growth, one might say. But I would say it's more of a sustainable growth. Like, those are going to be less fake accounts.
29% a year is not bad. I mean, Christ, that's
not right.
I'd be happy with
but I
that.
think that those are probably real people, real accounts, and some Russians in there too.
Right.
But also, they're slowly doing this, but they've revamped their Twitter API. And do you remember in the heyday of Twitter, where like things were so great and there's all these innovative applications that are built off of the Twitter API? I think that they will be opening up that market in the future. And do you remember that hint about subscription services? And so I think put those together, and I think that they are going to be they have a really, really bright future ahead of them.
Advertising way up. I have to think President Trump helps Twitter a lot, right?
Between him and Elon Musk, yeah.
I think engagement of the people who are already there, but I don't think that he brings in any new people at all.
But what it does bring is a daily mention on all the news channels and in the newspapers, right? I mean, they get free advertising from that at the very least. If the president of the United States uses it as his primary vehicle for addressing the electorate, that's not bad. I mean, but what will happen? I don't think Joe Biden, if he should get elected on Tuesday, knock on wood, I don't think he will. Will he use Twitter? Can he find his phone?
But he'll do it. He'll do it there's always been a convention with politicians and corporate leaders using Twitter, which is that you have people who do that for you.
Yes.
And there's message discipline.
Right.
But
see, isn't that the charm? Isn't that the charm of Donald Trump's account? Is there's no message discipline?
That's not the word you're looking for, Leo. And also, I think to a certain extent, Trump has the same thing. He has other people doing those things. He has, Scavino, Dan Scavino.
Dan Scavino's his social
doing a
media
lot of those things, and he's just as nuts as his boss is. So it's sort of the polar opposite of what you've got here. But really, with in the case of Twitter's stock price going down, we're really in a situation right now where with all tech companies, basically they are priced for perfection. Everything, everyone's been piling money into there because where else can you put money right now? Right. Interest rates for everything else are down, in the fractions of a single percent, fractions of below 1%. And so, everyone's loading money into those things. And so at the first sign of any tiny problem, the crack in the perception of perfection disappears, and some of the institutional money disappears from it, scares out some of the retail investors, and then a few days later, everyone starts piling back in again. But everything's priced for perfection. So any kind of problem, perceived or otherwise, that comes in there panics people and scares them away from a stock. That's why this week you saw even a lot of even the big companies that had done well were getting hammered, just in terms of their stock price. And a lot of it is just because, there's just no margin for error in that anymore.
If you compare the S&P 500 index to the tech stock index, it's pretty clear that the tech stocks are what's powering the S&P 500. That they're a major, that, you take the tech stocks out of the stock market, it's not nearly as powerful, as strong. It's not even necessarily positive. So that's the other reason. If I were Jack Dorsey or Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or Sundar Pichai, I wouldn't be too worried. You can regulate these guys, but at the great risk of cutting your economy off at the knees. You've got to be very careful about what you do.
Well, cutting the stock market off at the knees. The stock market is not the economy. Let's be
important.
clear.
And almost half of America does not have money in the stock market. So, but at the same time, is technology not the engine of the American innovation and the economy?
Yeah, but going after these companies is not necessarily going to hurt technology. I mean, I think we've seen plenty of instances before where and I think there's been a lot of good analysis that if you start to split up some of these companies, especially Amazon, break off, AWS and some of the other branches of Amazon, that the combined, the value of, multiple companies would be vastly greater than what it is today as a single company.
It's a big risk to take. I don't know if I'd have the guts to do that. It's easy. It's one thing to pose for a campaign commercial. It's another thing to actually pass a bill or pass a law I guess the DOJ doesn't really care. In theory, they're not political. They're just going to pursue antitrust regulation. Oh, right? Oh, never mind. Facebook. How did Facebook do? Advertising up 22% year over year. Revenue up 22%. Income up 12%. Net income up 29%. So I'm not sure what the difference is. Income from operations was up 12%, but the net income was up 29%. Oh, that's partly because of a drop in their income tax. There was some weird tax thing that went on with Facebook. Daily active users on Facebook, 1.82 billion people. Monthly active users, 2.74 billion people. How many people are on the internet? They've got almost everybody on the internet is on there.
Well, and I'm sure there's a couple of bots in there too among that number.
Really? It's not the problem on Facebook that it is on Twitter, or is it?
I think it's a pretty significant problem on Facebook as well.
Those Russian bots, they get everywhere.
I think also some people have multiple accounts, especially when you talk about stuff like what's going on with Oculus. They want to try to segregate that data for themselves.
Yeah. That is infuriating. And Facebook denies this. They said, "Oh no, that was a bug." But there was even for a moment the concern that if you had the two different Oculus devices logged into the same Facebook account, they'd kill your account. Crazy. Amazon's net income tripled last quarter. That was before Prime Day. Jeff Bezos says
that's also with mitigation for COVID that they had to institute. So
that's right.
On top of that, they
tripled. $6.33 billion in net income, up from 2.13 the same quarter a year earlier. Prime Day in October this year, so it didn't even feature in those results. Jeff Bezos says, he says, we're seeing, he just rubs his hands and goes, excellent. The company plans to hire 100,000 seasonal workers for the holiday season. We're seeing more Bezos says we're seeing more customers than ever shopping early for their holiday gifts, which is just one of the signs as this is going to be an unprecedented holiday season. Excellent. Good news for Jeff. He's going to be even richer.
And do you remember all those years when they'd have, increasing revenue, but everything would be plowed back into the business, and so their net profit was, just slightly. It was always just slightly more than zero, but just barely. And it was like, well, Amazon's never going to make a profit. Well, I guess they did finally.
He's kind of in control of that, though, right? He can say, well, let's sink that profit into building more distribution centers or drone delivery or whatever the hell.
To an extent, but there was a very long period of time where they genuinely were building out their distribution infrastructure for the retail business and their cloud infrastructure for AWS. So it wasn't like they were deliberately, hiding the profits or foregoing the profits. Those were necessary investments, and you can look at that now and say in a large part of the world, the distribution infrastructure is there, and it's maybe they can improve on it, but it's mature enough that they don't need to make massive investments. It's incremental and strategic investments for those things, and the same is true to a lesser extent with AWS. I mean, all of the cloud stuff that's happening, it requires huge capital investment, but they've already made huge capital investments.
Yeah, well, where they're turning their attention now increasingly is on the transportation logistics side of the business. Over the last several years, they've built up their fleet of aircraft that they operate. They've got more and more of their own delivery vans, not relying on FedEx and UPS and the post office as much, and actually investing directly in the technology itself. They've put something like well over $1 billion into an EV startup called Rivian, and they've ordered 100,000 electric delivery vans from Rivian, with the first ones expected by early 2022. And to give you an example of where they're at the end of 2019, they had 30,000 of their own delivery vans. They're going to have another 100,000 electric ones over the next 10 years added to that fleet. So they certainly expect to grow, and they're building out their own logistics infrastructure. And on top of that, there's their investments in Zoox and Aurora for automated driving. So they're doing a lot of interesting things.
I think
they're also buying like space in malls too, so that they can get their with all the empty mall space, people aren't going in, retailers are going out of business. They're using that as a hub for logistically being closer to the metro areas, because it's a lot of real estate, huge parking lot, and it's by a large population of people usually.
It's safe to say Amazon is a logistics company at this point as much as anything else. Yeah,
totally.
Logistics, and let's not forget cloud services company. That's a huge and growing business for them.
And payments.
And everything else.
With all the retailers selling stuff on Amazon Marketplace, Amazon takes a cut of every one of those transactions.
Oh, you bet.
So they're either selling it directly themselves, or they're processing the sales for somebody else and handling all the fulfillment, handling all these aspects of the transaction, whether it's their own transaction or somebody else's.
John, get the sad trombone sound effect ready, because despite the fact that Amazon had an amazing quarter, which they announced on Thursday, their stock fell more than 5%, costing poor Jeff Bezos $9.5 billion in one day. He lost he's still worth $179 billion. In fact, I love his the picture of Jeff Bezos on the Forbes top 100 list. Does that look like an evil genius or what? I mean, yeah. All he needs is a cat to stroke in his lap, and incredible. But he's not the only one. It was a bad few days for the rich people. Mark Zuckerberg lost $6.4 billion on Friday. Aw. I think, honestly, if you wired him up to a heart rate monitor, Ed, he'd be flatline. He's a robot. He's a robot. Let's admit it. You need a voltmeter, not a heart rate monitor.
That would be good to know. I would be really happy to have confirmation of that fact.
On Friday,
I would love an empathy graph to see how empathetic they are to the people.
Empathy graph. Turn up empathy now. Turn up empathy now. Smile.
The Voight Kempf hearings of 2021.
Elon Musk on Friday lost $4.3 billion. Thing is, if you can afford to lose $4.3 billion, it means you have a lot more than that, right?
It also means that you made 10 times that amount in the previous 6 months.
Elon's worth $87 million. Even Eric Yuan, the CEO of Zoom, lost $1.3 billion. He's only worth $20 billion. He's really kind of a laggard in this group. Yeah, but he was worth $11 billion in July, so he's almost twice as much in just a few months. Good Lord. Tell me about Elon, because did not the Tesla stock take a massive growth over the last 6 months? Sam, I think they tripled, right?
Oh, yeah, more than that, I think. They went from, from the beginning of the year, at January 1st, they were at $86 adjusted, the pre-stock split price was $86 a share. It closed Friday at $388.
Jeez, why? What? I even saw, was it Jim Cramer said, you know what? The short sellers were wrong. That's kind of a shock.
I've heard all kinds of theories. A lot of it having to do with Robinhood, Robinhood members, buying up Tesla shares, buying into all the hype around Tesla.
Right.
And, it's not, Tesla has been the leader on this, but there's been, a bunch of these other EV startups like Nikola Motors and Fisker and others, and Lordstown that have gotten big bumps this year, from people trying to cash in on this frenzy around electric vehicles, which is still, barely a ripple in the market.
Right.
But it has nothing to do with the intrinsic value of the company or its products.
Did California's non-binding announcement that they were going to be banning gas vehicles in 2035, did that have an impact, you think?
No, the run-up started long before that, and in fact, their stock is actually down a little bit since then, and so I don't think that had anything to do with it.
Okay. We got a great panel. Sam Abuelsamid is here, principal researcher at Navigant. He's my car guy. His podcast, Wheel Bearings, is at wheelbearings.media. We're getting to see the Knotty Pine Den. First time in a while. No green screen. Nice to see you, Sam. It's great to have you always on the show. Also with us from Austin, Texas, Wesley Faulkner. Oh, no, that's Ed Bott. That's it. There we go. He's a developer advocate at Daily Co., and it's great to see you. Everything going well? The family's good?
Oh, yes. It's starting to cool off here in Austin, which is really, really great. We're starting to feel like it's fall. It's been really, really hot, so it's a good respite.
How's the Gila monster doing?
The bearded dragon?
Oh, I'm sorry, the bearded dragon, yes.
That's Pancake. She's great.
Pancake's good? Okay.
Yep, we actually moved her today out of the office, and she's now downstairs.
We normally see Pancake when Wesley joins us. Yeah. No Pancake today. That's why I was asking.
No Pancake today.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
I thought.
She's still with us. Thank you for asking.
I care. She's going to outlive you. You know that, right? I mean,
possibly. She might eat me.
How long do bearded dragons live?
40 years, I think.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
Believe me, it's longer than you want. Wow. Also with us, as soon as the kids move out, you want the bearded dragon to move out with them. That's just my suggestion. Also,
the way this pandemic is going, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, you know whose kids just moved back in? Sam's. That's why no green screen.
Only temporarily.
Okay, that's what they say.
Well, we've given them a deadline to get out.
Oh, good. That's important. You should do that. I feel like Sam's house would be a sitcom. I feel like it's just like, Full House kind of thing. I don't know. Also with us from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I got it. Mr. Ed Bott. Yes.
Perfect.
Ed Bott report. The Wilco flag behind you gives it away.
I try and give you clues every single time.
I know. One of these days. One of these days. Our show today brought to you by Stamps.com. Have we been using Stamps.com? This holiday season, people are going to be mailing more stuff than ever before. The post office will be busy, but do you really want to be waiting in line in the post office when you could do everything you would do at the post office from your desk with your computer? Stamps.com brings the post office to you. And now they bring UPS shipping as well. Just a few clicks, and suddenly you have the best deal in postage. Stamps.com is a must-have for any business, whether you're a small office sending out invoices, an online seller, Etsy, eBay, Amazon, fulfilling orders during this record-setting holiday season, even a giant warehouse sending thousands of packages a day. Stamps.com can handle it, no problem. We've been using them since 2012, and if you haven't tried them yet, have you not been listening? I've been singing their praises forever. Just use your computer to print official U.S. postage 24/7 for anything, any letter, any package, any class of mail, anywhere you want to send. And then it's really easy to schedule a pickup or just drop it off. There's no limits, no weight limits when you use Stamps.com. It's never been easier. You get a great deal, too. 5 cents off every first-class stamp, up to 40% off priority mail, and when it comes to UPS, it's an amazing deal, up to 62% off UPS shipping rates. That's awesome. And forget postage meters. This is the modern way. Stamps.com is a no-brainer, saving you time and money with both the U.S. Postal Service and UPS. That's why 900,000 small businesses use Stamps.com, including ours. I love it. I could just come in and say, I need some stamps. They'll print right on the envelope, put your logo on there. You don't even have to fill out the to field because they'll take that right from your order site, your website, your address book. Look, there's no reason to spend a minute of this holiday season at the post office. Stay home, stay safe. Sign up for a risk-free trial of Stamps.com instead. With my promo code TWiT, you'll get a special offer that includes 4 weeks of Stamps.com to try it. Give you a good idea. 4 weeks, get you right till into December. Plus free postage. Plus you get a digital scale, and there's no long-term commitment. Now, here's the key. You got to do this right. You saw what John did there. You go to Stamps.com. You click the microphone at the top of the homepage, and you type in TWiT. That's Stamps.com. Offer code TWiT. Stamps.com. Why go to the post office? You got everything you need right at your desk with Stamps.com. Okay, let's see. Let's see what else is going on in the world of existential dread.
If you have problems with existential dread, you just need one of these.
Look at that.
That's no bearded dragon.
Oh.
No.
Now, tell me, what breed is that? Is that a puppy?
She's a Pembroke Corgi.
Oh, I love corgis. But Pembrokes don't look so, how shall I put it politely? Fat.
Vertically challenged.
Short and fat.
Well, there's two kinds of corgis, Pembrokes and Cardigans. The Pembrokes are the ones that usually have either a docked tail or a very short, stubby tail, and they're a little bit smaller. The Cardigans are a little bit bigger, and they have a bushy tail like a fox.
Oh, I love it. But
they're both short.
They're short.
Medium-sized, both medium-sized dogs, just low riders, like my Miata.
Everything Sam does is low slung. The Queen, which does she own? Pembroke or the other?
I think she had Pembrokes. Yeah.
Yeah. My sister has corgis. I love corgis. They're sweet tempered little animals.
They're great dogs.
Yeah. How do they work with cats? Do you know?
Don't know. I'm allergic to cats, and so we don't have any around here.
I have to find out because we have cats.
She gets along great with all the other dogs in the neighborhood, though.
Well, that's good. Yeah, they're friendly.
Yeah.
They're friendly. And they walk funny.
She's quick. They're good sprinters. They're very agile.
Really? Oh, all right.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
They're herding dogs. So.
Hey, since I have you here, Mr. Ed Bott, longtime PC World editor, Windows Magazine editor, what do you think of Microsoft's, and of course now it's ZDNet writing about Windows, Microsoft's Windows 10 UI refresh, codename Sun Valley? Microsoft's getting very active. They've got Windows 10X coming out next year and a new UI. Is this just rumor or?
Well, so of course it's just rumor, but there's enough fundamental reality behind it to say that the rumor is basically confirmation of what we've always known. So a couple things about that. Number one, most of what they're talking about is incremental improvements in things that already exist. They've made it very clear they're not getting rid of the investments that they've already made here. This is to a large extent consolidating investments. And they've been doing a bunch of this stuff all along. And in fact, there's something in the current versions of Windows that's very mysterious. They've never explained. But if you go to, if you go on a Windows PC and you look at the About page, you'll find this thing. I forget what it's called, but it's well, maybe I'll just look it up. But there's a Windows interface thing that appeared on the About page. It's called the Windows Feature Experience Pack.
Oh yeah,
and it appeared on the Windows About page about a year or so ago. They've never explained it, but that to me is sort of the thing that I'm looking at when I see the whole Sun Valley thing. The thing about the thing about this that bothers me is that they're planning to do it at the end of 2021, H2 2021. And Microsoft made a very, very, very big deal a couple years ago with their enterprise customers changing the support lifecycle for Windows to say they were going to bifurcate the two releases, the H1 release in the first half of the year, the H2 release in the second half of the year. The H1 release would have an 18-month support life, and the H2 release would have a 30-month support life. And then what they've done in the 2 years since then is to set up a development cycle where H1 had the big new feature releases, and H2 was a very, very, very minor update.
That's what happened this year. 2004 was a big deal with lots of bugs, and 20H2, which just came out, has been kind of the stabilizer.
It's the stabilizer. It is in fact exactly the same code as 2004.
Yes.
When you install it, all it does it shows the same installation date as 2004. And so they've set their enterprise customers up to expect wait till H2. H2 is basically the service pack,
right? And
then you get to run that for.
And that's the long term.
2.5 years. It's the long-term. It's the Linux long-term support version. When I first wrote about this, I said Microsoft just introduced a Linux long-term support version. Well, if they release in H2 of 2021 this major feature thing in the 30-month support version, they are basically giving a big giant, one of these to all of their enterprise customers. And I'm not sure what they're thinking there, but the logical way to do this is to release it as an early preview in the second half of next year, and then make it, give it to
make it 22H1 maybe.
Make it 22H1.
Yeah.
But they're not doing that, and so and if they do that, they're basically blowing up about 2 to 3 years of goodwill with their enterprise customers. So, but Microsoft,
can I chime in here for a sec?
Yes, Wesley Faulkner.
So they also have this remote virtualization, like allowing you to use Windows on the cloud for the enterprise business. And so if there's an application, their virtual desktop is. So I think maybe that kind of let them off the hook with this big feature change or this UI change. And hopefully they want to keep the features the same, but the way it looks differently. If there is something that is truly broken with this new experience, do you think that they would just push their enterprise customers to this virtual desktop experience instead of worrying about basically putting all of the onus of legacy support into the cloud? And so they can try to move their customer base, mostly consumer, with Microsoft, and to stay up to date in those regular cycles to make it seem like a interesting operating system where it feels like it's kind of old because of the last time the UI was refreshed. And if we go back to the earnings announcement, if you look at the earnings that were depreciated, it was around the Windows and the enterprise business. So it looks like they might be trying to move that into a service because they are seeing decreased revenues on that front.
Well, the trouble with it, that's a good theory and an interesting theory. The only problem with it is that the virtual desktop is based on the exact same code as the physical desktop product that they're selling. And so the advantage to enterprise customers is I want to install it, whether it's on a physical desktop or a virtual desktop. I want to install it once and then not have to think about it for 2 years. And so if they've got, so the issues with major desktop interface refreshes are not just support, but also training. If you move people's cheese, you have to then, do online seminars where you explain to people where you move their cheese, and that's always expensive. But yeah, they're definitely trying to, they want the big enterprises to do everything virtual desktop. Doesn't matter what the client screen is at that point. It can be on an iPad, a dumb terminal, or anything. But it's just a big, massive disconnect in their support story for them to be introducing a major UI refresh in an H2 release, and the fact that they're not denying it or even trying to tamp down some of these stories is slightly concerning, I think.
Interesting. So it sounds like you two both agree that the future of Windows is virtual desktop.
The virtual, the future of all computing is virtual
Chromebooks
desktop.
can run Windows now, so
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Chromebooks are running Windows in emulation in a VM, not on the cloud. I feel like we're actually, because of the wildfires around here and the risk of power outages and evacuations, our editors who normally work on Adobe Premiere on big Dell Precision workstations running Windows, we've set up virtual Windows workstations for them. They don't spin them up. It's nice. You don't have to pay for it unless you spin it up, but they're there. So if they have to work from home, if they can't get to the studio, they can do it all on the cloud. And that's actually a pretty darn good solution. Right now, it's not cheaper than buying a machine. I don't think than buying a machine and doing it on-prem, but I feel
not even close to being cheaper.
It's expensive,
but yeah, that is absolutely the future. Most things are going to be running as either web apps or hosted apps somewhere in the cloud, and the ultimate end game is you don't know the difference between these two. And there's a great thing, I think Bill Gates said it a long time ago, or if he didn't, he should have. But that everyone underestimates the extent of change, and they overestimate the speed of change. So everyone gets disappointed when the magical things don't happen as quickly as they think, and then several years later, the magic turns out to be even more magic than you thought.
Right. Here's my Windows XP desktop. I'm really enjoying this with this. By the way, this is running on a Linux box. Whoa, Minesweeper. Here's IE.
Where's there's supposed to be a wind turbine on that hill.
Well, here's the funny thing. I'm even getting the warning that my antivirus is out of date. But here's the funny thing. This is actually in a browser. This is JavaScript and React. This is Windows running. It's not an emulation. It's a fake.
It's probably running faster than an XP ever.
It's pretty good
in real life. Yeah. And if you can stream high-end video games on xCloud or Stadia or Google GeForce Now, Windows should be a breeze.
Yeah. I feel like this solves a lot of problems. Not just the here's even Winamp. Look at that.
There's the one of the biggest investments that Microsoft made in desktop virtualization is in fact supporting remote graphics processors, GPUs.
Right.
And so the fact is that you could run on a very, very low powered screen, any kind of screen, and all of the GPU processing is happening on the back end. So you basically have a that something that's many times more powerful than a Silicon Graphics workstation from a few years ago, that's basically accessible from any screen.
It also solves a lot of problems with terms of support and security. I can imagine businesses would jump on this if you can get the price to be comparable to an on-prem system. Is there any reason that it isn't comparable right now? Is it just a matter of time?
I think it's just a matter of time, and also the administrative burden for these, because of the way Microsoft licenses software, the administrative burden for them is extreme. You have to have, the infrastructure to manage an entire distributed workforce easily from a single pane of glass, and there are in order to make this affordable and useful, you need to get it down to the level where a business of 10 people, a law firm that wants to be able to do video depositions,
right,
and lots of document management and stuff. You need that 10-person law firm to be able to take advantage of that right now. And the management burden of this stuff on Azure right now is scaled to large enterprise. And so it's when that gets down to mid-sized businesses that it really starts to take off.
Will they do the same thing that they do right now with Exchange, for instance, where it's just a managed exchange by some third party, or will Microsoft say, we're going to manage all of it?
I think it's pretty clear that Microsoft has said they don't want to be that pane of glass for anyone except the very large organizations, and they want to hand it off to MSPs. So yeah, I could see companies like Intermedia or GoDaddy, or some of the other partners that are really focusing quite with laser-like intensity, in fact, on those smaller markets. Once they have the tools to hand this stuff off, then the pricing will follow. From that.
It just makes sense. It's really the only way forward, if you ask me, for Windows.
Right.
It just makes sense. By the way, if you want to run this crazy JavaScript React version of Windows XP, it's at winxp.now.sh. The GitHub project, it's a big deal. A lot of people involved in this. Very, very cool. Shizuku Kulchi did this, and it's pretty impressive. A lot of commits though from 263 contributors. He didn't do it all by himself. It's cool. It is not Windows in the cloud. It's not, even though it might look that way. Yeah, I'm really fascinated by this is the transition. There's, as I said earlier, what's really interesting about technology is how it's transforming how we do everything, and technology itself is transforming. We've seen, we were talking earlier about cord cutting. We've seen the transition from terrestrial broadcast to cable to internet. We've seen in music the transition from vinyl to cassettes to CDs to the internet. We've seen the transition in magazines from paper stacked next to your bed to the internet. And I think it's just a matter of time before cloud computing becomes the dominant way that we compute, even though a lot of people's argument against that is, well, haven't we already been through that? Isn't that the old client-server model where you have a big iron downtown and you're running a dumb terminal? But I think it's a lot better and a lot more sophisticated than that. And it does all of it depend on widespread, high-quality bandwidth, right? Without reliable bandwidth, none of it makes any sense. And that's why I think you see people like Elon promoting Starlink. Starlink is now in beta. Anybody got a beta? You're north enough, Sam. You could get a beta of Starlink. Did you apply?
I have not applied. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, they had a page a few months ago where you could say, oh, hey, when it comes out, I'd like to try it. I can't remember if I'm hoping I filled that out.
I filled it out. It's $99 a month to be a beta tester. Like, I know we'll probably eventually go into Tesla's self-driving, but Elon Musk
cheap for
definitely has beta. It is, but like it's amazing how much he allows people to pay him to test out his services.
You don't get to $82 billion in net worth without a little bit of a few eggs being broken, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting. They've got, I think, 900 satellites out of the 12,000 that they're eventually going to launch. It's not just $99 a month, Wesley. You have to spend $500 for the hardware.
Oh, the installer, yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
Because you've got to put a dish, a pizza box size dish on your roof. Early testers are reporting, well, a variety of speeds. There have been a number of kind of interesting beta tests in the Pacific Northwest, a town that was destroyed by wildfire. First responders are able to use Starlink. I think there's a First Nation on the reservation. They're using Starlink. Starlink says expect to see data speeds ranging from 50 megabits to 150 megabits, latency from 20 to 40 milliseconds. But that's based on the current Starlink setup, and it'll get, they say, faster and less latent as they add.
They also said
satellites.
Expect zero.
Expect zero latency
No. Yeah, they said it could have frequent outages.
Oh, yes.
It may not work at all.
Expect zero performance. Yes.
So that's kind of like the self-driving beta, where they warn you that it may do wrong things at the worst possible time.
I am a booster. I know there's other companies. Isn't Blue Origin going to be doing this? Amazon, and I think others are going to be doing this. But I love the idea of a global internet of maybe gigabit speeds with latency down in the low two digits on every square inch of the planet. That's transformational, and it does seem like they're. I mean, look, they're offering it now.
And that's and that is ultimately the solution to the whole problem of the digital divide, which is, where people who live in concentrated urban areas where fiber is economically viable to install get all the benefits of digital technology, and people who live in rural areas get, maybe really crappy line of sight satellite technology at best, or DSL, which AT&T is dropping now, and so this is, this actually has the potential for, for people who are like, digital nomads to go out into the middle of nowhere and continue to be productive.
I just want to say I want to volunteer to do that. I could have a nice podcast studio in the middle of the ocean. Actually, I think they're selling an old fort off the coast of the United Kingdom.
Are you going to seastead?
I want to seastead.
From existential dread to seastead. That's the Leo Laporte story.
Yeah. What is the name of that the fort for sale? 4 iconic sea forts are up to sale. This is Spitbank Fort. It's quite beautiful. A mere £4 million. 4.2 million, you get the much larger No Man's Fort, but it's kind of a fixer-upper. Both are located in the Solent near Portsmouth. Yeah, see, that's more of a fixer-upper, you see. That's Horse Sand Fort. That's really cheap. Only 750,000 pounds. But you got some work to do. These were built. That's nice. Look at that. That's No Man's Fort. 23 substantial ensuite bedrooms. It looks like it's got a baseball field on the top. Maybe that's cricket. I don't know. Anyway, these are pretty nice. Look at that. It's in the middle, but it's in the. I think these were built during the Cold War, or maybe World War II, to protect the homeland. What do you think? Be a nice little podcast fort.
Well, with global warming, I wonder how much of that's going to be above water in the future.
We'd have to just build. We'd build up.
How are they sitting there? How
they're not floating. I don't think they're floating.
They're not floating. So that means that there's like big concrete pilings that go down to.
So, as the sea level rises, you just build up. Just add some more floors. No big deal. All right. I'm just saying.
If I had $86 billion, I might consider it.
That's the problem with evil geniuses. They don't know how to spend their money. They just don't.
That's why they have so much money.
Yeah, I could help them. I did spend $35 a month for the new Apple One bundle. Now I'm wondering maybe was that a bad idea? It started a couple of days ago without any fanfare. There wasn't even a press release. The only way I knew about it is because on the Apple quarterly results call, Luca Maestri, their CFO, mentioned, "Oh yeah, it's rolling out tomorrow." That was it. But I jumped on it. I don't know. That's probably not a news story. One.apple.com. I guess the bundle, if you're already buying some of these services, the bundle's probably a better deal because you get a family plan and all that.
But this is so quintessentially
it's so Apple. It's so Apple.
You can get, you want a 3% discount on your next MacBook, get an Apple Card, and you get a and then buy it with your Apple Card, and there's a 3% cash back for you.
Yep.
And historically, you can say that about the best discounts you can really ever get on a current Apple product is going to be in the 5% range or so, and that seems to be roughly what they're doing here. They're going to be, you're already all in with us. We'll give you a little tiny
break.
Little break. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a customer. Here's your discount.
It's basically like living in a company house, shopping at the company store, working in the company coal mine. That's it. I owe my soul to the
St.
Apple
Peter,
Store.
Don't you call me.
That's Ed Bott. The Ed Bott reports on ZDNet, zdnet.com. He's at Ed Bott on the Twitter. Wesley Faulkner is here, now gainfully employed at Dailyco as a developer advocate. Congratulations, at Wesley83. I'm guessing that's your birth date, not your weight.
That would be a good guess.
Yes.
You'd be wrong, but yes.
Oh, I'm wrong. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's great to have you. And, of course, my car guy, Sam Abuelsamid, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights. Our show today brought to you by... I always want to whip out the electric guitar and play the lick from Heart's fantastic song Barracuda when I do this ad. Dun, 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 dun. Barracuda! Barracuda is the provider of cloud-enabled enterprise-grade security solutions that protect email, networks, data, and applications. This is the time to get Barracuda's total email protection. This is a tough time. You've got all your employees working from home, getting email. We know that 91% of all cyber attacks start in email. With COVID and the interest in COVID information, hackers have stepped up their spear phishing attacks. Barracuda's researchers say it spiked 667% since the end of February. So let's see. Phishing attacks, ransomware, account takeover, conversation hijacking, hundreds of emails to thousands of employees. 91% of all attacks start in an email. How do you feel right now about your security? You need Barracuda Total Email Protection because one click on the wrong email can ruin you, cost you money, customers, and your reputation. With Barracuda Total Email Protection, you get all-in-one email security, backup, and archiving. You get AI-based protection from spear phishing because the bad guys never rest, so your protection has to be just as aggressive. You can also get an automated incident response that gives you options to quickly and efficiently address attacks. We know the faster you respond, the quicker you address these issues, the less damage they'll do. And even maybe more importantly, security awareness training to educate your workforce because your employees are indeed the first line of defense against these attacks. If you want to get a 100% free, no-risk scan of your Office 365 account just to see what's in there, go to barracuda.com. TWiT. And here I've got something for you might want to check out. One of Barracuda's premier customers is PetSmart. Mostly what we get at PetSmart is cat towers. We've bought quite a few cat towers. You wouldn't want to get a spearfishing cat tower. They use Barracuda and Microsoft's help to quickly secure their remote business during the pandemic. And there is a wonderful webinar that will tell you how they did it. It's the latest from Barracuda. It's called Securing Azure with PetSmart, Microsoft, and Barracuda. And that's available for you to watch right now. Well, don't do it right now. Wait till after the show, but there's something a little extra for you to watch tonight. Barracuda.com/PetSmart. This is actually pretty serious. You'll get expert guidance in overcoming security challenges when migrating your IT infrastructure to a public cloud environment, like PetSmart did. That's barracuda.com/PetSmart. And of course, to get that free threat scan of your Office 365 account, just go to barracuda.com/twit. Don't forget, securing Azure with PetSmart, Microsoft, and Barracuda. It's at barracuda.com/PetSmart. So that's two addresses you need to remember, barracuda.com/twit and barracuda.com/PetSmart. Barracuda, your journey secured. Ding, dun, 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 dun. Ding. I have to talk to them and see if we could just get a jingle made. It would be so much fun. You'd probably have to pay for that, wouldn't you? I could do the one where they transpose it like an octave, and it's not. It sounds like it, but it's not quite right. Then you don't have to pay. I don't know. Let's see here.
Can we talk about Xilinx?
Yeah, big acquisition. It's really interesting to see what's happening between NVIDIA going after ARM and now AMD going after Xilinx. This is another giant acquisition, $35 billion. Wesley, you're going to have to tell us what it all means.
So Xilinx mainly does the interconnects for moving data from one place to the other. So inside of racks and data centers, and also for the 5G towers of doing the interconnects there. They're really into advanced photonics. So basically sending light in order to
they're
make
fiber.
Sure that
they're fiber based.
They're fiber, but they have cracked the code really in FPGAs, and so they can do AI acceleration. Basically, they can make custom accelerators. So whatever your task is, whatever you want to optimize for, is they can make FPGAs to do that. And you can see from AMD's history that they're moving in that direction to do very specialized acceleration for specific workloads. And that's why they can easily make a really fast server computer that does very hard and large workloads, and then use some of that same expertise to make the next gen gaming system, to tackle some hard problems, but that are specific depending on the customer. And so they use the same chiplet technology. They even use the same foundries. And so the synergy is very, very high for them to be able to use some of each other's IP to make what they do even better.
I am so impressed with Lisa Su and AMD's strategic vision. This has been an exciting time. I mean, forget Intel. Let's talk about NVIDIA and AMD. That's where all the exciting stuff's happening. Sam?
Yeah, the other thing that Xilinx does, they do a lot of SoCs that combine their FPGA technology with ARM cores. So they have a whole line of these SoCs, and a lot of them are actually used in automotive applications as well, which is an area that AMD's never been involved in, and NVIDIA is gaining a big foothold in there, especially as we get into automated driving and a lot of the infotainment stuff. They're starting to gain a real foothold there. And I know I've heard from various people at AMD wanted to break into automotive over the last couple of years. They haven't done anything yet, but this could give them an entry into the automotive sector with Xilinx. Recently, Continental, a major automotive supplier, announced a new imaging radar sensor that is powered by one of these Xilinx SoCs. So, again, this is something that would give AMD another advantage over over Intel, both having some ARM capability with Xilinx and the FPGA capability. And I think it sounds like from what Wesley was saying, the network interconnect stuff sounds like might be similar to in some ways to what NVIDIA got with its acquisition of Mellanox.
Well, you nail it. Here's the slide from AMD, and it shows significant revenue synergy opportunities in those three categories: data centers, where FPGAs are widely used, and ARM is coming on strong. In communications infrastructure, as Wesley was talking about, the interconnects, and then, as you were saying, Sam, in embedded, leverage broad customer base and distribution platform, extend AMD CPUs into key embedded segments. They haven't. Has AMD had much of a presence in automotive up to now?
None at all.
None at all.
Never done any automotive grade stuff up until now.
Yeah.
They did. They had a little bit of automotive in the infotainment space with their ATI acquisition. They had a small. That was more of the graphics in terms of small embedded space there.
Okay,
but
so
they sold it off. They sold it off really quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they didn't maintain that space, and I think that's also a really good example of past acquisitions. I mean, ATI has come along since then, but I was there during that acquisition. The way that the companies integrated caused a lot of friction. And I know that they said that Xilinx is going to operate differently. That could be positive and negative as their own separate entity. When ATI first came on board, it was almost like a firewall between the two companies. One of the projects I worked on needed like advanced access to their GPUs in order to do some testing. And we could not get them because ATI would send it to all their OEM partners first. And so what we had to do was talk to our OEM partners, and when they got the card, they would just send it to us so we can get it. And all depends on how they integrate with Xilinx in terms of company culture, which is going to probably be the determining factor if they're going to be successful or not.
Patrick Morehouse is writing for Forbes about this. Moorhead, I'm sorry. You know him.
Yeah.
Brings up this exact thing. He says but that was 14 years ago. And it's a different company now and a very different. In fact, they haven't really done many acquisitions. They haven't even had the money. I mean, $35 billion. In a way, that's a statement as much about AMD's recent success as anything else. That they actually.
Yeah, they're strong right now. They're on the up and up and to the right. And with this acquisition, that's what I'm saying, that they are opening up a whole. They can hit the gas tank, the gas pedal, basically on what they're trying to do and the corner that they're trying to carve out. It's extremely future focused, this acquisition. I know what Intel got Altera. I wrote notes just so I can reference them. That's kind of in the same kind of space.
Yeah.
But Intel collects companies and then they kind of just try to keep up, and there's not a really good integration. With the previous CEOs with AMD, I think that was a really bad weak spot in terms of not only getting other companies to work together, but even departments. I tell this joke. One CES, I went to show up for our booth, and there were 4 AMD booths because they all registered differently because no one was talking to each other.
Wow.
I think Dr. Sue has really cleaned that up, and she has gotten everyone on the same page. So that's why I'm really excited about it.
It's really exciting. Should we start feeling sorry for Intel at this point? It really feels like they
made their bed.
Yeah, they're lying in it.
They're wallowing in it right now.
Yeah.
It's very sad to see, but it's also possible to look back on all of the opportunities that were just absolutely squandered. Especially in the mobile space. I just finally sold a phone. I think the only iPhone that ever had an Intel chip in it, right? The iPhone XS, the 10s,
I think there were a couple of generations that had Intel modems in them.
Yeah, but they were, just that that was the runway was there for them. And they just sort of sat there and did nothing with it. And I know also from Microsoft engineers that I talked to for over the years, all of the the failures that they had with, power management and the ability to have mobile devices that could run on their CPUs, and they had essentially a monopoly and took no advantage of it. So it's hard. It's easy to feel sympathy, but it's hard to feel too sorry for Intel, because it's just it's a series.
And don't
of
forget all the exploits in their microcode and their security problems over and over.
Although
and over again.
AMD isn't completely immune from that. I mean, it's speculative execution that's the problem, right? And this willingness to feed these
several
pipelines.
different, but yes, to a limited fashion, AMD is also subject to that. But it's just Intel causes a bigger headache because of their install base.
Yeah.
Right. The one Intel acquisition that I think right now is still pretty strong is Mobileye, which they bought a few years ago. They've been the leader in the advanced driver assistance space. Most of the forward collision warning, lane keeping systems that you find on modern vehicles are still powered by Mobileye. And they're making some really good progress on the automated driving front, doing robotaxis. And they're working with a bunch of companies, especially in China. They've got a pretty strong base in China on the automated driving front. So I think Intel has actually been counting on Mobileye to generate a lot more revenue for them going forward.
So people might have written off AMD not so long ago. It's a fluid business, but it does feel like Intel's. How important is getting to 7 nanometers? Apple's going to be shipping 5 nanometer parts in their iPhone. How important is, and Intel still can't get to 7. They're still stuck at 10. Is that important at all, or is that just a number that's easy for me to understand?
It's crucial.
It's super important. Yeah. Go Sam or Ed. Sorry.
No,
go ahead.
No, please.
It's just that if you went from 10 nanometers to 8, that's 20% savings in power and gain in efficiency just by making it smaller. And then when you optimize on top of that, then you get all these other gains. And so in order to keep up, you have to keep shrinking to make sure that your optimizations can be sloppier when you have a smaller nanometer. And then you can then do a refinement on top of that to get to help push you. But with everyone else being able to get smaller faster, they're definitely getting a leg up and a head start just by doing that one change. Because they have these foundries that they own, that they have to retool, that they have to figure out. They don't also have the flexibility to go into TSMC or go into some other fab to say, okay, you haven't figured it out, so I'm going to go to your competition. They don't have any of that leverage. They have all of the liability, all of the trial and error and R&D. And also, you can see none of the results. So it's really sad that they they said that their fab was their edge for so long, but now it's definitely a liability.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what, in fact, I was quoting this from 3 years ago. In Stratechery, Ben Thompson wrote that Intel made so much money by integrating its fabs and its design and building these massive, $10 billion chip factories, and were doing so well with it, they were unable to leave it behind. And that's always the innovator's dilemma, right? They were so successful doing it they were, that they kind of missed the future. They fumbled the future by being so tied into integration, and he said this 3 years ago, and I think the fruit of that is becoming very clear at this point.
And as their volumes go down, as AMD becomes more powerful, it's actually hurting Intel, because if they can't keep those fabs full, if they can't keep their volume up, they're losing money every single day.
Right. It's really a fascinating story. This is why I love covering tech, and I really love doing it with smart people like you guys, because the insight that I get from listening to you, I don't know anything about this stuff, but the insight I get from listening to you really helps me understand it a little bit better. I forgot to run the promo, so let's do that right now. We have a promo from some of the things you might have missed, other smart people who are on TWiT this week. Shall I show the Ted Cruz clip?
Did I get my blood pressure medication first?
We didn't want Twitter to be a distributor for hack materials.
Look at that.
So in your view, if it's unclear the source of a documented...
I see, again, I can't watch it. I just can't.
You can't do it. No, these are your friends.
Previously on TWiT. Smart Tech Today.
Google has announced that it's discontinuing its Google Nest secure alarm system.
This is like the epitome example of what can be wrong with smart tech. They literally left it out of the documentation that this product contained a microphone and then decided to just tell you that it had a microphone when it activated it.
Hands-on photography.
We're going to talk about the highs and the lows of portraiture. No, not like that. I'm talking high-key lighting and low-key lighting portraiture.
Look at that.
I promise you're going to be able to do this too.
Mac Break Weekly.
Any of you have the new iPad Air?
I can't even tell the difference day to day between this and my 2018 iPad Pro. I could pick them both up and not know the difference between them.
Windows Weekly.
All right, Paul, you got a little gift for your birthday, I think.
Yeah, I've been sitting on a couple of Xboxes.
Oh!
The problem is I can't really discuss any of it yet, except for the unboxing bit.
You can't plug it in, or you can't say that you plugged it in.
Exactly.
TWiT. Thousands of hours of high-quality dribble.
Thank you, Jim Cutler. That's a perfect characterization. High-quality drivel for your ear holes. Yeah, I mean, we should not ignore that, but there is a big battle between two very much opposed people. It's going to resolve itself very soon. And of course, I'm talking about PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. And I'm going to guess, Ed Bott, you're going to be an Xbox guy.
I'm not a gamer. I had an Xbox 360 and an Xbox One, and I sold them a couple years ago and never went back.
No PlayStation in your future either, then, I'm guessing.
No PlayStation in my future either. That's nah.
Wesley, what are you buying the kids?
So my son loves Little Big Planet.
Yes,
so it's
I do
be
too.
PlayStation,
That's PlayStation.
But we're going to be actually we're going to be getting a used PlayStation 4 when it.
That's all you need.
When it's a glut on the market going up.
Exactly. What you should
the
do.
backwards compatibility is a little questionable, and then we want to make sure that we can have the whole array of the back catalog. So we thought it would be safer to get a PlayStation 4.
I like that. And Sackboy's so great. How about you, Sam? Do you have a dog in this hunt, as they say?
We have a PS4 that I use to play Gran Turismo. That's the only game.
When you get done driving cars for a living, you drive cars for fun.
Exactly right. Yep.
Okay. I have to say, I just got a Nintendo Switch, and Animal Crossing is great. I feel like such a loser because instead of doing anything productive, I'm farming turnips in a virtual environment. There's something wrong with me. And decorating.
Comrade, the root vegetables. Are essential to the 5-year plan.
They keep the country strong. Okay. There is also another gargantuan battle that is going to engage on Tuesday. I know that everybody who listens to this show is actively planning, if they haven't already voted. And I bet you all, everybody on our panels has voted already, right? You guys already voted, right? Yep. Sam, have you voted?
I'm not a citizen.
Where are you from, Sam Abuelsamid?
I'm a Canadian citizen.
So do you go to South Detroit to vote? What do you do? What do you do?
I just sit by and watch.
Oh my God! I had no idea you were Canadian.
Yeah.
Is your wife of the American persuasion?
Yeah. My
so
wife
she'll vote.
And kids. Oh yeah, they've all voted.
They've all voted. Yeah. Your kids are old enough to vote, so they've all voted. Yeah. So I hope everybody who's watching and listening has a plan for voting. It's too late. It's too late to mail your ballot. You knew that. It's too late. So if you've got a ballot, you got one mailed to you, and you filled it out, find a drop box, go to your county clerk. If you go online, iwillvote.com, you can figure out where you could drop that ballot off. It's so important. You must do that by Election Day, because already many votes in your state, Wesley, are potentially invalidated because they changed the rules in the middle of the game. So it's really important you get to that drop box and you put that vote in. It's a little scary. We were talking about this before the show. With San Francisco, much of it is boarded up. Washington, D.C., New York City. People are very concerned about what's going to happen on election night and the days following. All I can say is, please, everybody, be calm, be patient, stay safe. And as always, we're going to get through this together. But make sure you vote, because that's, of all the things we get to do in this country, that's the most important. I have to put a disclaimer to check your local laws, because the way that mail-in ballots are treated from state to state is different. Yes.
So if it's a mail-in ballot, you might not be able to drop it off. You might have to go to a polling location, have that be spoiled, and then you could vote.
Oh, yeah.
So the laws change depending on your location. So you can't. So sometimes there's a distinction of what you can drop off if it's a mail-in ballot or not. So please check your local laws to make sure that you act appropriately.
Excellent, Wesley. Very, very good point. iwillvote.com has all of that information. You can say what state you're a resident in, what county. You can find out all the information you need. They also have a voter hotline you can call, and you can also text ACCESS to 43367. All of that is nonpartisan, nonprofit, iwillvote.com. It's very important. I know geeks, for years geeks said, it doesn't matter. I'm not a voter. I know politicians are worthless scum. Government's a bad idea. But I hope that we have wised up that government does make a big difference, and a bad government can make a terrible, terrible difference. I know, Ed, you care an awful lot because I follow you on Twitter.
I wear my heart on my sleeve.
Yeah.
It's true.
It is. It will be a week of existential dread. And if I don't get a haircut soon, it'll be a week of existential dreadlocks. But that's another story for another. Actually, I don't think I could do dreads. I think my hair is just not gonna go in that direction. No. But I'm not getting another haircut for a while, I think. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Wesley Faulkner, always great to see you, even without your bearded dragon. Developer advocate at Daily Co. at Wesley83. Anything you want to mention, plug?
Well, first of all, I've got to say that as a person who ran for office, I'm very invested in the whole process of democracy. So I do want to plug my company, but I'm going to do it in the way of some of our customers, of the people who use our technology. And I think they're really great examples of how you can use this in a really, really creative way. The one is GetDuck. That's Get with an I. With a lot of people being remote, being able to pair program and see the person you're working with is amazing.
How cool.
So GetDuck is a really, really good example of people using the technology to work remotely, still stay connected, and actually do some work. And I just want to highlight them as a lot of the innovation that's happening.
What a good idea! It looks like it works with VS Code. That's really, really.
It works with multiple IDEs.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Also, there is Pitch, which is a really, really great company for developing your own decks and working collaboratively so that you can figure out who's going to do what and assign tasks to them. And so if someone's doing the intro slide, someone's doing the graphs, you can actually assign them, and then they turn it into the giant deck. And then you all can work and talk using revisions, which is really, really great. It's an amazing tool. I think everyone hates slides, so I think Pitch is in a unique place to disrupt the thing that we all hate and make it something that we not only love, but we can love together as a group and collaborate. And our company also released some new features. We have this thing called a pre-built UI. So like, let's say you don't want to do all that, but you just want to do like, let's say a Zoom competitor or your own kind of quick chat function. Like if you are running a conference and you want people to be able to see each other, a lot of solutions, you have to build all that out, like connect buttons to different calls and just draw all that out. But ours comes with a free, available to use default UI that you can just click yes and then go on and just have that deployed on your website or in your application, which is really, really amazing.
Daily.co. Yeah, very cool.
Yep. And our we have a free tier, so like you can use it, and I think you get like 2,000 hours of video time.
Wow.
And so it's not like you can just test it. You can actually, if you're a person, you can use this for your own video call, and it's secure because it's WebRTC, so it goes over HTTPS, and so it's encrypted in both the video and the chat. So it's a pretty amazing technology.
I know why you make a good advocate. You're good. Really good. It's great to see you, Wesley. Daily
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you. Thank you, Ed Bott. The Ed Bott reports on ZDNet. What are your plans for this week, Mr. B?
You know, I was supposed to be on a boat this week. I was supposed to be on a ship literally at sea with no internet
connection.
access.
Yeah.
With no connection whatsoever.
Tempting.
That didn't work out. So I'm just gonna, try and do some self-care this week. We did manage to send Windows 10 Inside Out 4th edition off to the printer last week.
Yay.
All done.
Yay.
Every page, read every single word of every single page, found the last few little things in it and sent those off. So that'll be coming out well before the end of the year. So that was nice to have done. And other than that, I'm just gonna see if I can put my head down and concentrate on technology for a while.
This is
hey, it's there.
It's pre-orderable. It's pre-orderable, the 4th edition. Yay.
So good. And we really, I think, knocked it out of the park this time. This is actually, even though it says 4th edition, this is actually the 7th edition that we've done, because we did a couple of ebook only updates for it. And this one we really slaved over.
Would you
one.
recommend getting the Kindle version for that reason, or is there an online site we should go to buy it?
No, the Kindle version is great. Has the full color screens.
Oh, nice.
And the thing I love about the Kindle version is that, even though we have great indexers working to produce a great index for us.
Search is so nice. Yeah.
Search, being able to search for the word that you're looking for in it is, there's nothing better than that. So yeah, I recommend that.
I'm a Kindle fan, but I just ordered. Should come sometime soon. The Remarkable 2. Are you familiar with this?
I haven't seen that.
It's an e-ink. It's tablet sized, and really it's for taking notes. But you can also read books on it. I'm really intrigued by the whole idea. Not that my handwriting is any good, but as soon as I get it, I'll do a review. Thank you, Ed. It's great to see you again. Hunker down. I was going to be. Our plan, Lisa and I, our plan last year, we said on election day, we're going to go to Rome. We're going to hang out with Father Robert at the Vatican. This was before COVID, obviously. And we'll be ready to pray. And if things go south, we'll just stay. But that didn't work either. So I like your idea of being on a boat.
We were going to be in Monte Carlo.
Oh,
literally.
I love Monte Carlo.
Up until midnight, which would be 4 p.m. Eastern time, and then get on the boat and leave.
So it was a cruise.
Yeah, it was small, very, very small. But yeah.
Like friends? Was it your private yacht? What would? Come on, dish now.
No, it was, me and the Kardashians. Had it all
okay, not bad. Sam Abuelsamid. I had no idea you were not one of us.
I'm one of you.
I'm not going to hold it against you. You're just Canadians are bizarro Americans. They're just slightly different.
Just nicer.
Nicer. Yeah, much. Yeah. What is your shirt? E equals MX5.
Yes. The Mazda Miata, the full official name is the Miata MX5. So it's a play on E equals MC squared.
I get it. And what year is your Miata?
It's in 1990. It was built actually 31 years ago in October. So it's just over 31 years old now.
Is that considered like is that the original Miata?
That was the very first model year. Yep. It's a very early build Miata.
What color is your Miata?
It's gray. It's a
gray,
sort of silvery gray color.
Oh, okay. I drove a Miata in 1990 with Gina Smith. We were in L.A., pretending to work for MGM because that's what Ziff Davis wanted us to do. And we rented it to drive down the 405. It was the scariest drive I've ever had. I've told you this before because you're lower than the height of the trucks going by you. And I just had these terrors of getting stuck under a truck and ending up in San Bernardino.
Back roads. Curving roads.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not on the highway.
I always wanted a Miata until then. And then I thought, maybe not. Thank you, Sam. It's always good to see you, principal researcher at Navigant Research. And, of course, you got to listen to Wheel Bearings. That's his podcast at wheelbearings.media. The right vehicle for the job, the most recent episode. If you like automotive, you'll love Wheel Bearings. Should I get the 2020 Chevy Corvette for my dear wife?
Hold off until the Audi e-tron GT comes out and see what she thinks.
I told her we should get this. I told her after you told me, get the GT because it's sporty, it's beautiful, it's electric. She says too fancy.
But I mean, if she really wants the Vet, it's a great car. It's a fantastic car.
It's beautiful, and
it's actually a remarkably good value for what it is.
Yeah.
Starts at just $60,000. The next best car with that kind of performance in a mid-engine sports car costs about 2.5 times as much.
Yeah.
So
it's a beautiful car.
It's a fantastic car to drive. Lisa would love it.
I know she would. That's all she's ever wanted as long as I've known her is a little red Corvette. I wonder why. Sam Abuelsamid, Wesley Faulkner, Ed Bott, so great to have you. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for joining us. We do TWiT every Sunday, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. And now that we are on Standard Time, I'll have to do I think it's 2130. I think it's 2130 UTC. Here's the deal. If you just come by at twit.tv/live, there's a 24/7 live feed of audio and video of whatever's going on, either in the studio or recordings from when the studio was open earlier in the day. And you can watch. If you're doing that, you could chat with the chatters. They're up all hours of the day and night at irc.twit.tv. If you prefer to consume your TWiT at your leisure, you can, of course, download on-demand versions. That's why we call it a podcast at twit.tv. All of our shows are there, audio and video for all of our shows. There's also a YouTube channel for all of our shows. Go to youtube.com/twit. That's the master channel, and you can see all the other channels there. Subscribe. Actually, the best way to subscribe, if you would, is in your favorite podcast application, because if you subscribe there, you'll get it every time it's out, and you won't have to think about it. And you wake up on a Monday and say, oh, I've got a new TWiT, and that's a nice feeling. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Stay safe. If you haven't voted, please vote. If you have voted, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. No matter what happens, just keep saying that. It's going to be okay. Another TWiT.
It's amazing.
Bye-bye.